We want to talk about the vote in St. Tammany Parish against moving the Diamond Jacks license to St. Tammany Parish. And there are folks that are now saying now the company, Peninsula Pacific, has 60 days to reopen the Bossier Parish Casino or lose the license. Is that how the verbiage reads?
That is how the verbiage reads. Let me just kind of walk you through the process, if I could.
Please.
First of all, the vote in St. Tammany was overwhelming that they were not interested in moving that property there. With that said, Diamond Jacks will have only two options. They will have to reopen the property, or they will have to relinquish the license back to the state. They cannot sell the license. They can surely sell their property with the understanding that the new buyer could possibly apply for the license. But those are the two options. We cannot let the license stay dormant. It's been dormant for over a year now. We have an obligation to the state to produce some revenue with that license. So I'll be having a conversation with Diamond Jacks this week to figure out where they're going now that they know that they can't go to St. Tammany. So that's kind of where we are. I anticipate that they will reopen Diamond Jacks in Bossier.
What how do they reopen if they've sold everything? I mean, how could they do that?
Well, that's going to be up to them. Now, the board. It's not my decision as chairman. The board, they could make an appeal to maybe stretch it out to 90 days or something like that. We would have to see what their plan would be in order to do that. The board as a whole would have to make that decision. But we will not let that license stay dormant. It's going to either be reopened or they will relinquish it back to the state. And at that point in time, we would take applications from any interested parties who may be interested in that license.
Yeah, Mr. John, this is Scott Hughes sitting in with Aaron today because I'm looking at the actual resolution with your signature really right below the pertinent paragraph. And it does say the word shall twice. It says that the berth dock shall remain on the Red River in downtown Bossier City. And it also says that the gaming operations shall take place on the Mary Margaret, which I believe is the actual vessel. So there doesn't seem to be a lot of ambiguity there. Are you saying that the commission could come back and give an extension on that deadline?
It's very possible that they could if the plan of action by Peninsula looked viable with COVID restrictions, with the short supply of supplies and things like that. It's very possible that that could be extended beyond 60 days. But as chairman, I'm not going to extend it for 6 months or a year or anything like that. It's going to be a short time frame.
Agreed. And this may be a technical question, but the resolution does say within 60 days of November 13th. Is it fair to assume that is now the December date, yesterday, the election, or Saturday?
That resolution actually was passed prior to the election being moved back by the Secretary of State. We would have to give some consideration to that. We can't go back and backdate it all the way back to November, being the referendum didn't pass and this past Saturday. So we'd have to make some adjustments for that. But I can assure you, we're not going to let that license stay dormant very long. They're going to have to make some decisions what they're going to do with the property and the license. My initial conversations with them a few weeks ago that they would reopen in Bossier if the referendum failed. But I'll be having that conversation with them this week, and I would tell you probably in the next week or two, I could give you a more definitive direction of where they're going and where we're going with the license.
What do you mean by reopen? Could they put a few slot machines in there and say they're back open and then kind of gradually come back up to full steam? What would be your requirement?
My requirement's going to be a viable casino. We're not going to allow them to come in with 100 slot machines. it may not be 2,000. It may be a smaller amount of that, but there's going to have to be table games. There'll have to be slots. There have to be amenities on the property. It's not just a matter of having a casino. There's got to be other amenities. So the board as a whole is going to look at this very, very closely. We're going to watch it. Not only will I be involved with this, state police and the Attorney General's office will be involved from a legal standpoint of how they reopen and when they can realistically reopen. But we are working. We will be working today on the issue. I can tell you that I will be having a conversation with Diamond Jacks by midweek, and then we'll. I think in the next week or two, I could give you a lot clearer direction of where everything is going.
It's tough. You have to admit it would be tough to get all the machines back and employees all hired within 60 days. That's seems like an uphill fight, right?
It would be difficult, but it's not impossible. They agreed to that language. That's not something that we just forced upon them. They were in agreement to do that. So we, as a board, we're going to take a real hard look at that this week. Our board actually meets this week on Thursday. It's not on the agenda, and it will not be on the agenda, anything to do with Diamond Jacks, because there's no definitive proposal in place at this point in time. But as chairman, I can tell you that we're not going to let this license stay dormant. We're going to require it to be reopened, and if they are not in agreement to reopen, then we will start the legal process of taking the license back and putting it back out for proposals at the appropriate time.
Lastly, this morning, if Diamond Jacks does relinquish the license, what other market in the state is a viable option for another gaming establishment? Because we all know, a lot of us will say it's saturated and there's lots of competition. What market is best suited for another casino?
The study that we did back in 2018, it specifically targeted the North Shore area where the referendum was this past weekend. We still think that that's the best market for any license to go to. However, the people have spoken very, very clearly. 63% to 37% said, no, we do not want a license. So at this point in time, we're going to have to just take a hard look at it. We know that the Shreveport-Bossier market is saturated. It very well, it's just impossible for me to say right now who would be interested in going to a specific market. That would be not only a function of myself and the board, it would be a viable applicant who may want to go to a specific market. So we will look at that. That's an impossible question to answer right now, but it's going to be a tough issue to address. We understand that very clearly.
So Mr. Johns, I guess what I'm hearing you say is, do you feel that the board is committed to reissuing the 15th license either to the current operator or to another operator if it's returned to you? Going back to the early 90s, the 15 number, I think, was the original legislation plus the land-based casino, which is now Harrah's. So many have always said, what's sacrosanct about 15? Is there a possibility the commission just holds the license long, or are you committed to reissuing the license?
No, I think we have an obligation to reissue the license. Those licenses generate revenue for our state budget, and not only state budget, but local governments' budgets also. So we have an obligation to issue that license if we can, but it's got to be done correctly. It's got to be in a good market. We can't oversaturate just because, Shreveport-Bossier is saturated right now. Do you oversaturate another market? That's just something that's got to be looked at, and it depends on who the prospective applicant would be.
And one, I
They,
guess
they
one,
do their they do their own studies, and they know what market they feel like they can do good in, and so we'll see. But I guess the first question we got to answer is what is Diamond Jack's going to do? And they hold the license. They have the right to reopen that property in Bossier, and I think we'll have a clear understanding this week of where that's going.
and in the event that they return the license, I noticed the line above the paragraph I was reading the resolution. You specifically have at this point denied them the right to sell the Mary Margaret, which is the boat. What would happen to the facilities? Would they own those? Would they revert to somebody, or would that be property that the company then would dispose of?
That's something that we're going to have to look at from a legal standpoint of what they can do and what they can't do. I'm still in hopes that they're going to reopen the property. And look, a license is that's a very valuable license to hold. And I think if they invest some money in Diamond Jacks, bring the property back up to a condition that would be a lot better than it is right now, I believe that Diamond Jacks may have an opportunity to make it a go there in Bossier. So we'll see. We just got a lot of questions we'll have to answer here in the next few weeks.
Gotcha. Ronnie Johns, please keep us posted, and we will be in touch. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Johns.
I'm willing to visit with you guys anytime.